TAFE SA and higher education. Of course, we have the Minister for Education appearing. Estimate of payments being the Department of Education $3,365,421,000 and administered items for the Department of Education $325,068,000. I declare the proposed payments open for examination and refer members to the Agency Statements Volume 4. The member for Badco has been discharged and the member for Torrens is rejoining us. Minister, when you're ready, if you could please update your advisers.
I thank you for the opportunity to talk about TAFE in the Parliament. I think it's a tremendously important
Minister, if you could just please update your advisers for the committee. Yes, please.
The new Chief Executive of TAFE SA, responsible for delivering our fresh start for TAFE SA and hitting the ground running, and we're very grateful for that work, is David Coltman, who sits to my left. To his left is Beth McKenzie, the new Chief Financial Officer for TAFE SA, and we've very much appreciated the work that she's done since coming on board. To my right is Claire Fezshak, who is the Director of Further Education and Pathways to the Department for Education. And behind me is Rick Pearce, who is the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Minister. If you have an opening statement.
I'm happy to give all time to questions.
Lovely. Member for Port Adelaide.
Thank you, and I haven't yet met the new Chief Executive, so it's good to see, to at least to meet in person if at a distance. My first question, so we're talking about budget paper number 5 and the pages are 94 and 95 that relate to TAFE. My first question relates to the decision not to close some campuses, having in last year's budget suggested that 5 would be closed. What has been the budget impact of that recently announced reversal?
I'll invite the Chief Executive to answer that directly.
Minister, thank you for the warm welcome. And in response to your question, we have been able to achieve the budget savings through other measures, which have included reducing our footprint on the campuses and working with other providers to ensure a more efficient delivery model.
Okay. So part of that then comes to the next question around the MOU that's been signed with the group of non-government providers. How is the cost differential between TAFE and most courses that are provided by non-government providers going to be managed in offering students a choice on the same campus? How's that been explored in discussions?
I'm not entirely sure that by asking that question, the Shadow Minister is accurately reflecting on the nature of the MOU. I mean, we do have already on certain TAFE campuses prior to the MOU other providers offering services that are similar to, or I think could be even described as in competition with TAFE SA, and the most obvious example is at Regency, where not only is TAFE SA offering services using those facilities, so is Le Cordon Bleu, so is the I'm going to say the acronym so I don't get one of the words wrong, the ICHM. It's either hotel or hospitality management, and I always get it wrong, so glad I've drawn attention to that. So the MOU sets out a process for going forward, but to be clear, I think we're talking about TAFE facilities. So TAFE SA will work with ITECA and non-government providers, particularly where it benefits the TAFE SA and the people of South Australia to do so. I think it's useful to have South Australian taxpayers' resources used to their full extent, but through the management of TAFE SA, which is, of course, our public training provider. I'll just check if there's anything I've missed there. I might invite the Chief Executive to add some further detail.
Thank you. Just to add, the MOU sets out a framework for discussion over the coming year about how we might work together. It's not prescriptive in that extent. It identifies 4 areas that the two parties will work together on. One, which is professional development for vocational education staff, irrespective of their employer. The other is around facilities, and the use of facilities where we have capacity in both directions, so where we may be using the facilities of private training providers to deliver courses if we have an unmet training need. The third focuses on the scope of delivery so that we understand whether the programs as required or the training skills as required in the state are being met by all providers. And the fourth relates to the fourth is about, I'm having a moment.
Happens in public.
Maybe I can assist the Chief.
It's the cameras.
The joint policy priorities for vocational education going forward at both the state and federal level.
And I appreciate it's probably not articulated in the MOU, but is there a view that's been formed within TAFE SA or by you, Minister, on how many students you expect to see who are receiving training from non-government providers being on TAFE campuses? You've got a quantum?
No targets.
No targets, okay.
Budget paper 5, pages 94 and 95. Minister, can you tell us today who currently owns the TAFE SA site?
Sorry, can you ask the question again,
The
please?
Gillis Plains TAFE SA site, who owns it?
Who owns the Gillis Plains TAFE SA site? Look, I believe that's one of the sites that's being transferred from Renewal SA to TAFE SA. I'll correct the record if that's mistaken. We don't have it at our fingertips here, but everyone seems to believe that's the case. So 1 second. By land title, it's currently with Renewal SA, but I think all of those sites are anticipated to be transferred back to TAFE SA.
So that includes the Gillis Plains TAFE site?
I'm talking about the Gillis
Right,
Plains
yes.
TAFE site.
Seeking the call. Member for Golden has the call.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in regard to budget paper number 4, volume 4, page 95, highlights bullet point number 4. Can the Minister provide an update on the establishment of the TAFE Academic and Quality Committee?
Look, I'm really pleased to do so because this goes to the heart of one of the government's key election commitments, which was to provide a fresh start for TAFE SA. We have so much confidence in TAFE SA's future, and we need to because it's an important asset for the well-being of our young people in South Australia seeking the skills to develop their careers, for adults who seek to re-skill to get new careers, and indeed for prosperity of our state through our businesses and industry seeking to be able to fill their skills needs. And so in doing that, we have to have the confidence in the academic and the quality side of TAFE as well. So our election policy was that TAFE governance and the quality of training will be further improved through the establishment of an academic board reporting to the TAFE SA board. This academic board will have a critical role in ensuring the expectations of industry are being met through its engagement with the new Industry Skills Council. And in accordance with our election promise, the Fresh Start for TAFE SA strategy, TAFE SA has indeed established the Academic and Quality Committee. It's also, I note, a reflection of recommendations in the Nous review and the Moran-Banikoff review that were commissioned by the member for Port Adelaide when she was the Minister, and I think it was amongst many excellent comments and statements and recommendations made in those reports, and I'm happy to reflect on them more if the committee would like me to. But in relation particularly to the Academic and Quality Committee, commenced its full operation in February 2019. It's a subcommittee of the TAFE SA board. It meets monthly. It provides oversight on TAFE SA's scope of registration. So it also provides advice to the TAFE SA board on compliance, quality matters relating to quality teaching and learning. It oversees the conduct and outcome of courses and qualifications provided by TAFE SA to raise quality standards beyond just compliance, just beyond just ticking the box to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the National Training Package, but indeed is actually delivering on what industry and businesses in South Australia need from our graduates of TAFE SA, and to ensure that their needs are being met, it engages with industry and employers to ensure that TAFE SA is indeed meeting their needs. So to date, the Academic Quality Council has overseen preparation for the re-registration process with the Australian Skills Quality Authority and review of TAFE SA's scope of registration in 2019. The committee consists of board members, Dr Craig Fowler, who has recently held the position of Managing Director for the National Centre for Vocational Education and Research, Ms Jo Denley, who is highly experienced in human resources and risk management, and I think the Shadow Minister and I fell over ourselves in giving her credit for a lot of good work last year, but it's been a long-standing experienced member of the TAFE board who has added significant value to the organisation and particularly at a time of high stress performed above and beyond. And Judy Curran, another TAFE board member who has extensive executive experience across a wide range of health and community services. They're joined on the committee by Mr Alan Radford, an independent consultant with transforming credentials. He's been nominated by the TAFE SA board to fulfil the role of industry representative on the Academic Quality Committee, commencing from the 1st of July. So he's new, and we're excited and grateful for his service to the people of South Australia, and this is a service to the people of South Australia. TAFE SA executives are also attending meetings as and when required, and I think this committee will do an excellent job fulfilling the purpose we saw it, not just that we saw for it in our election commitments, but that the Nous Group saw for it in their review of the issues 2 years ago, and the Moran Bannikov review as well.
Minister, does the government intend to close the Gillis Plains TAFE site, to sell it, relocate it or privatise it?
Which line item in budget
Once
are you referring
again,
to?
it's budget paper 5, page 94 and 95.
Thank you very much.
Firm no.
In relation to the Gillis Plains TAFE site, can you just tell me what infrastructures are unique to that campus?
Look, I don't have the details of the site here. They do work across a range of courses. And my understanding is, my recollection from previous briefings, is that it is a site that has reasonably strong levels of demand.
Yep, can I just interrupt? Sorry, specifically.
Well, no, you can't.
Okay.
You can interrupt if you want, but you're asking for permission to interrupt. I'm still answering the question.
You didn't have the answer, you told me.
Would you, okay.
Yeah.
This morning's deliberation. It is unparliamentary to interrupt.
Thank you, go on.
How about I finish my answer there and you can ask another question?
Thank you.
Member for Torrens, have you
Sir?
Member for Torrens?
Yes, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Paper 5, pages 94 and 95. If there are no plans for closure or sale of the Gillis Plains TAFE, why has Renewal SA website got a map showing plans to rezone the campus as residential with open space marked for the site of the TAFE?
Look, I'm not sure what document the member is looking at, but the answer that I've given is based on the advice that I've received. My recollection of maps of that area outline the TAFE SA site in a different way, but as I say, I'm not sure which document the member's looking at. The answer that I've given stands. It's being transferred to TAFE SA, and TAFE SA is not proposing to close it. And can I say that when I've discussed this with colleagues who are interested in that area of land, I'm not aware of anyone suggesting that they were planning on seeking to sell the TAFE SA land. As to what manner of zoning it might have, I'm not familiar with that, but I've been given no advice that the TAFE SA won't be able to continue operating out of that site for any of those reasons. I'll just check if there's any further information.
Yes,
No, I'm advised that the information I provided to the committee is accurate. So,
is the Minister aware that, has the Minister been made aware by Renewal SA or by the Renewal SA Minister that it has issued a contract to AECOM Services to conduct a site survey of the campus? AECOM, Ecom Services, a private company, to conduct a site survey of the campus that was issued in May of this year. It's a substantial sized document, but page 163 of it states AECOM Australia was engaged to undertake a preliminary site investigation at the Gillis Plains TAFE SA. It is understood that the PSI is intended to support rezoning of the site to residential and is to be provided to potential purchasers as part of the due diligence process.
The question at the beginning of that was I made aware? Was I told? What was the question?
Were you made aware either by Renewal SA or by the Minister for Renewal SA that they were entering into a contract to do a site investigation that would be provided to potential purchasers of the land for residential purposes?
Look, I'll take that on notice. I'm not aware of having been given information such as the member for Port Adelaide describes?
Will the Minister now seek assurance from Renewal SA that it won't be selling the TAFE campus and to seek to have it rezoned residential so that it can continue to operate as a TAFE campus?
I'm very pleased to direct the member to the budget line from which she is drawing this question, which identifies that this campus, along with the others, is being transferred from Renewal SA to TAFE SA. So I don't need to ask permission for what Renewal SA is doing with that land, as I understand.
You think it's coming, though you weren't sure that it was coming to you.
This has gotten very exciting in this room since TAFE's been talked about. I think we can talk more about TAFE. We should talk about it in House Assembly question time from time to time. We might have to organise some questions, and the Shadow Minister might even ask some from time to time. But the fact is that the budget actually sets it out. The assets are being transferred from Renewal SA to TAFE SA, and we've answered the question that Gillies Plains campus of TAFE SA is going to be continuing, and that is our expectation.
Okay. For pages 92 to 98, there's of the same document. Why have I put 92 to 98? There is, back to 94
I'm not worried about the
95.
budget line.
There's, thank you, there is a reference to FTE reductions that have occurred. Who left TAFE SA in the last year, and what was the TVSP cost for that? I reckon I must have it in this one. For volume 4, when I gave that page reference.
Pardon me, I'll start again. So for the financial year June to June 2019, so it may miss a couple of weeks at the end of the financial year, there were 86.72 FTE or 99 employees who accepted TVSPs. Exits occurred from May through to August. Appreciate that's over the edge of the financial year, but I'll provide the information as we have it. 36 FTE from the education side, which was 42 employees, 44.2 FTE from administrative support, which was 50 employees, 6.5 FTE that were weekly paid, which was 7 employees. 2 of those TVSPs relate to excess employees. TAFE SA undertook several internal reviews, including the student engagement transformation, foundation skills, tourism and hospitality, business justice and IT, and facilities and procurement. TVSPs were offered to employees through these processes. I think that answers all the information I have.
Thank you. Now there's reference to TAFE being part of the larger effort by this government to train 20,800 apprentices and trainees on top of the baseline over the period of the 4 years. What share of that 20,800 additional apprentices and trainees has TAFE set as its goal to train?
We have a responsibility to deliver at least 25% of that from 2018 for the 2018-19 to 2021-22. In 2018-19, TAFE SA exceeded the targets, as well as meeting for pre-apprenticeship and for apprenticeship and traineeships, as well as meeting 78% of the TAFE SA higher apprenticeship target. And TAFE SA will continue to actively drive apprenticeship and traineeship opportunities which align with the training profile to meet the social and economic needs of the state. That 25%, I would say, I'll probably characterise as a minimum. Obviously there will be some areas of the training profile where it will be far in excess of that, and we'll be working very hard to ensure that TAFE SA is delivering training packages that employees, staff members, apprentices and trainees who are seeking to enhance their skills will be desiring to use, and also which businesses will be desiring to use. There's also, work that they do in partnership with groups like the MTA and other group training organisations I think that there's a great opportunity with the $200 million Skilling South Australians Fund to enhance training across both TAFE SA and non-government providers.
Has a question.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. My question refers to budget paper number 4, volume 4, page 93. Can the Minister provide an update on TAFE SA's commitment to rural and regional South Australia?
Look, I'm really pleased to receive this question, and I know that the member for MacKillop and the member for Narungga are both passionate about this issue, and it's one that they both talk to me about it regularly. So with them both here, I'm very pleased to take the question. The member for MacKillop has raised issues that are pertinent in his electorate to me personally, and particularly reflecting on his own experiences as a student at TAFE, and as a tradie and as a business person, as an employer. I know the member for MacKillop has a full understanding, and I particularly appreciate the work the member for Narungga has also done in this area. Drawing attention, Kadina TAFE, I think, was the one we most recently discussed, to the opportunities to enhance that and to enhance the connections between schools and TAFE. Now, this isn't just a rural and regional issue. This is an issue across our education system where we really want those partnerships to be strong. But I think it's particularly important in rural and regional areas where you might have one high school and TAFE is so often the key training provider they're working with to meet the needs of the skills needs for businesses and industries in those areas. So as we look towards a fresh start for TAFE SA, a key feature of that renewal must be a strong and meaningful commitment to the state's regions to provide training solutions that support local delivery and economic growth. I'm really pleased to advise the committee that the TAFE SA board, with the exception of Joe Denley, who's been there for some time, all new. The new TAFE SA board has also committed to regularly visit the state's regions, to meet with leaders from local government, businesses and employers, to get first-hand insight into the training and skilling needs of those rural and regional communities. The board, I can advise the committee, is today in Mount Gambier for their July board meeting. They're missing Mr Coltman deeply, as I understand it, but they're functioning without him. They'll be covering a number of topics, including building on TAFE SA's regional activities, but also taking the opportunity, again, to engage with local industry, employers and the regional community more broadly. In the coming financial year, TAFE SA is looking to undertake a full review of its regional program delivery to improve regional considerations and program delivery. There are already facility improvements underway, and recently completed at TAFE campuses in regional areas included the reinvigoration of the Mount Gambier campus at a cost of $4.3 million in the last financial year. That project supported students' needs for increased collaboration, integrated technologies, informal and formal learning, and the interconnection of spaces with an overall focus on user experience. That project was completed in June, I'm advised. And look, I really appreciated the opportunity to visit that campus with the member for Mount Gambier not so long ago, at which stage they were very excited. I think they were about to be shifting enormous amounts of furniture to enable that to take place. They could see the way that that would integrate with what the community needed, and the staff at the campus were working very closely with the students to deliver that. There's also a revitalisation looked at this year for Whyalla, which will improve campus financial functionality. There is a $950,000 commitment towards the Murray River Regional Study Hub in this financial year. The TAFE SA is leading transformation of the site. I think this is the Murray Bridge campus in effect. And into a whole-of-community adult learning campus with potential for multiple local tenants. The project will strengthen the regional economy and improve local opportunity through the establishment of a higher education centre, supporting growth sectors in the regional economy by linking the needs of industry to a collaborative network of universities and training providers, supporting business to improve enterprise and management skills to generate a more diverse and robust economy, and expanding South Australia's international student competitiveness through provision of courses and student accommodation. That's due for completion in December. Students from across the 7 RDA areas, not including Adelaide, comprise about 38% of students enrolled in Australian Qualifications Framework qualifications at TAFE. And TAFE is working very hard to better connect with the needs of the state's regions, to enable its regional managers who are aligned with RDA regions to actively develop relationships with communities, with businesses, councils, industries and schools, so that TAFE SA can better tailor and deliver their training for regional South Australia. And that work is only going to, I think, be enhanced in the years ahead.
Return to page 93 of volume 4, of Budget Paper 4, we were talking about the TAFE's contribution to the government's commitment to the 20,800 apprenticeships and traineeships. I'm interested that this term pre-apprenticeship and pre-traineeship has come in. Can the Minister inform me what proportion of the 20,800 are anticipated not to in fact be apprenticeships or traineeships, but to be the pre-apprenticeships?
Look, I don't think that that's necessarily a fair characterisation, but at any rate, it's a question for the Minister for Industry and Skills, who is responsible for that budget line.
What proportion of the 25% that you're expecting TAFE to contribute to the 20,800 additional places that have been called apprenticeships and traineeships will in fact be pre-apprenticeships and pre-traineeships?
I'll take that on notice.
Okay. What is the target for international students at TAFE over the next few years?
I'll provide the information that I can, perhaps. So TAFE SA is committed to diversifying its income through international student recruitment. Pardon me. I'm advised that in 2018-19, there were 804 international students enrolled at TAFE SA, which contributed to TAFE's total international student revenue growing by 1.5% from $7.8 million to $7.9 million compared to the previous financial year. This growth is mainly due to the increased popularity of higher education courses, particularly the Bachelor of Tourism, Hospitality and Event Management and the 5 associate degrees in engineering, along with a Certificate 3 in Light Vehicle Mechanical Technology. I'm advised TAFE SA is currently focusing on attracting new business from China, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Vietnam, Indonesia, Cambodia, South Korea, India and Latin America. And they continue to collaborate with Study Adelaide, which promotes TAFE SA and the vet sector more broadly to an international audience, amongst other things.
Sorry, are you interrupting? Sorry, I wasn't sure if you'd finished.
To fully answer the question. So I'm further advised that there has been some substantial decline over the last 3 years, and so the focus for TAFE SA is to stabilise that decline.
Yeah. Minister, when was the decision taken to move TAFE campuses from Renewal SA to TAFE SA?
Well, look, that's part of the budget process, and the members fully
aware. So it was in this budget, or was it in the last year's budget?
Sorry, this is just to reflect to move them from Renewal SA to TAFE SA. That was part of this year's budget.
Thank you. I'm done.
Well, I'm happy to, if the committee would benefit from, I'm happy to provide some further information. I'm told that the Renewal SA website notes plans in Gillies Plains, but no change to TAFE operations in the foreseeable future, which is, I understand, consistent with what I said before. We've got a minute or two left, so if there are no questions from the opposition, I'm happy to read to the committee quotes from some of the TAFE SA reviews, which I think would obviously be of benefit to the people of South Australia to learn about. Or do we have further questions?
Gillies Plains TAFE again.
So no further quotes from the Moran Bannikov review and the NAS review then?
How far is the foreseeable future in response to what you've just said?
Well, given that Renewal SA is losing ownership of the sites and they're coming to TAFE SA, then it's directly goes to the questions that you asked before and which I answered before.
Alas, time has expired. There being no further questions, I declare the examination of proposed payments for the portfolios TAFE SA. And Member for Hurdle Vale. One moment, please. TAFE SA, and you can discuss this in the blue room, and higher education and the estimate of payments for the Department of Education administered items for the Department of Education completed. Member for Naranga.
I move that the sitting of the committee be suspended until 2:30.
Is that seconded? I'll put that at once.
Yes.
Suspended until 1:30. Sorry, 2:30.